In this episode, we dive further into relationships, talking about communication, negotiation, red flags, manipulation, and also the way to create more intimacy, more communication, and a better relationship. Welcome to the R.Y.S.E Movement Podcast, a place where men just like you learn to raise your standards everywhere. So sit back, grab a pen and a pad, and let's get to work. Welcome to another episode of the R.Y.S.E Movement Podcast. I'm Dave Caristessi, and in today's episode, talking further into relationships, we're actually going to talk about red flags. So the reason why I do all that I do, especially with the R.Y.S.E Movement, is thanks to my partner, Rachel. We spoke about her on the other podcast talking about relationships, where it was actually our 8th anniversary. She inspires me to be a better man every single day. And it's really amazing what she had to deal with in terms of me and how immature, juvenile I was at the start of our relationship. When we first got together, my behavior was subpar. I used to gaslight her. I used to do all the things that I used to try and get away with when I was in previous relationships, when I was single, and do whatever I wanted to get what I wanted out of women. I used to think it was a game. Like I said before, I used to be a giant sack of shit. Actually, yeah. I'm surprised I didn't get punched in the face more than I did when I was younger. Thanks to Rachel, standing up for herself, having such high standards, and demanding the man that she's with be better, be what she deserves. I am the man that I am today. Thanks to that, I am who I am. And I'm building what I'm building all because of that. However, let's talk about some red flags. So you might be doing some of the behavior that I talk about in this episode. And if you do, it's time to admit it, and it's time to come clean and to cut that shit out forever. The types of behaviors that I'm going to be talking about can be quite confronting, because maybe you've had this yourself. Maybe you've had this presented to you, or maybe you've even done it yourself. Let's start with the first one, manipulation. I used to manipulate, gaslight, play friends against friends, roommates against roommates. I used to think it was a giant game. I had no empathy whatsoever. Honestly, like looking back, some of my behavior and the way that I treated people was almost sociopathic. I would have no remorse, no empathy, not a care in the world, unless I wanted to show that specific behavior. Unless I wanted to show that behavior to get something out of it. The level of manipulation that I used to use, that I used to torment some people with, you need to be watching out for. And like I said in the second episode talking about abuse and DV and everything that I spoke about, and the previous experience with my past relationship and all the abuse that I faced in that, it's heavy. It's fucking heavy. So if you're going through this, or if you're doing this, you can change. You can make change. And I suggest that you take responsibility for every action that you do, conscious and unconscious. Bring light and awareness to all those behaviors that are less than favorable. Okay, so manipulation. The things I used to do to manipulate, gaslighting, easy, comes to mind. Everyone gaslights, whether you like it or not. Either you're now conscious of it, or you're a little bit unconscious to it. The gaslighting I'm talking about mainly came in forms of my behavior, because it's a lot easier to manipulate my behavior and then make you seem like that you're crazy, make you seem like you're the one who's got problems or you're paranoid. It's a lot easier to, instead of confronting the relationship, instead of confronting that I no longer have feelings for you, or I want to see other people, or whatever it is, it's a lot easier to change my behavior and manipulate you. If you do this, stop it. Stop it right now. The only person that you're actually hurting Obviously, you're hurting the other person, but you're really hurting yourself. You're sabotaging any chance, any ability to have true love, to have a connected, intimate relationship. If you deliberately change your behavior to then gaslight the other person, you're doing it because you don't value yourself. You're doing it because you don't feel worthy, you don't feel like you deserve love, like you deserve being here. Ultimately, fundamentally, at the depths of your unconscious, that is the reason why you do what you do. So stop it. Stop it. It's not okay. Stop hurting yourself. Stop hurting others, but stop hurting yourself. You deserve love. You deserve everything. You are worthy. You are so worthy. But please stop hurting yourself. That level of behavior that I used to do, where I actually learnt this from my father. I was going through ups and downs of a relationship when I was probably in grade 12 and, 16 years old. My dad's my best friend. I confide in him for everything. I get all my advice and, what I should do from him. And one thing that he told me that he used to do was exactly this. If he was dating a girl and he no longer wanted to be with her, he would just change his behavior and make it so that it was easier for her to break up with him than it was for him to break up with them. So he would start being aloof and, gaslighting. Gaslighting is essentially what he was teaching me. And he said, yeah, this is really good because then putting himself up on the martyr pedestal, one thing that he used to say around this was it was easier for them to break up with me, so they felt empowered. And so I didn't have to do it. So I didn't have to do the dirty work. It was easier to let them break up with me because I was already emotionally disconnected from the relationship than it is for me to break their heart. How fucking cowardly is that? That's so disgusting. Absolutely abhorrent. And that's the shit that I used to do. I learnt it from my father. Now, I can't blame him. He taught me the best that he knew with what he had available and his level of development, his level of awareness, and his level of introspection. I can't blame him. However, I can blame myself. I can take responsibility for myself. I can take responsibility for all of my actions of the past, the way that I treated other people, the way that I treated women, the way that I hurt people, the way that I gaslit. I can take responsibility for all of that. That puts the power back for me. That allows me to do something with it and to either transform it, transmute it, or to learn, to integrate, and to then raise daughters, to do what I do now with you guys through the R.Y.S.E Movement. It's to be a better man. I've taken responsibility for all of the hurt and all the things that I've ever done in the past, and for everything I'm present with right now, and for everything that I do in the future. What I think, feel, say, do, experience, that's mine. That's for me to take hold of. That's my responsibility. And it's up to you guys as individuals to take responsibility for the exact same thing. I can't understate how important this is. When you take full responsibility for everything that is in your life, that is in and around you, your behavior, so on and so forth, it's liberating. Yeah, you get to take on some hurt. You get to take on some pain of what you inflicted onto other people. However, you can choose to do something from here on out. You can serve everyone else. You can make each other's lives easier and better. You don't have to shit on people. You don't have to have tall poppy syndrome or crabs in a bucket where you're literally pulling everyone down because your inner worth is so terrible. One thing around self-esteem, self-worth, your self-image, so on and so forth. When you take responsibility, your self-image is going to take a hit. Your self-esteem is going to take a hit. You're going to think pretty low of yourself. However, at the same time, you then get to burn away. You get to literally get rid of everything that is no longer serving you and just let it fall by the wayside. Let parts of yourself die and then create anew. Create anew in such a deliberate way that you're literally molding it. The way that I'm picturing it in my head when I'm doing all the things that I do for my life and my personal development, my family and everything, I'm literally sculpting something. I'm creating something that is just massive and beautiful and deliberate. Because I choose it to be, because I want it to be this way that I have in my head and in my heart. And I can almost feel it. It's so powerful when you can think in such a creative way whilst taking that responsibility. Bit of a tangent, I know, but it's so important to talk about. So changing my interpretation of where I go, how I do things moving forward in relationships, I don't gaslight anymore. There's no need for that. I don't need to change my behavior because I have the ability, like I spoke last time, talking about communication, especially talking about communicating needs of each other in the relationship. If I'm not feeling it with Rach, I'll tell her. And I'm not going to dump it on her shoulders and say, you're being a piece of shit or you're being whatever. I'm going to say it and phrase it in a way that takes responsibility for me and the way that I'm feeling. I am the one who chose to feel like this. Granted, other person's behaviors had an internal representation inside of myself where I then felt. Those feelings are mine and mine to take control of and take responsibility for. Her behavior has nothing to do with me. It's all me. So, hypothetically, if Rach has a behavior and I feel something, I feel neglected, I don't feel seen, I don't feel heard, I don't feel like we're communicating, the intimacy is not there, whatever it is, I can then say, I feel like this when this happens. And then she can confirm what I said, because we often do this to make each other feel heard. She then confirms what I've said and what I'm feeling and experiencing, and then she'll reiterate it to me. She'll be able to say it to me, and then she puts her 2 cents in. So I'm feeling upset when you don't hug and kiss me when you first walk in the door. She would then say to me, okay, so what I'm hearing is you want me to give you a hug and kiss when I first walk in the door. Is that true? And then I would say, yes, that's what I'm experiencing. And then she would say, okay, when I come home, what I'm experiencing is I'm tired, I'm this, I'm that. I will give you a hug and a kiss when I need to wind down. And then we're both having our own perspectives. In this circumstance, instead of her changing her behavior, then gaslighting me, saying I'm crazy because, she just came home from work and all these sorts of things, and then throwing shit in my face, and then me getting defensive and almost like sabotaging the relationship a little bit by not having clear, effective communication, it takes that out of the way. She's responsible for her, I'm responsible for me. We're then responsible for the relationship 50-50. When it comes to having that dialogue where I said what I feel, she said what I feel, and then she says what she feels, we can go, okay, there is room for improvement. Clearly, we're not seeing the same side of the picture. I've expressed what my needs are. She's expressed what her needs are. We can then meet in the middle and have compromise. One of the greatest things that you'll learn in relationship, and I hate that I have to admit this because I used to be such a stubborn bastard and be like, not my way. The child came out. If you noticed the tone in my voice when I said, not my way, that's a toddler having a tantrum. If you say these things, if you sound like that when it comes to winning in a relationship, you don't win or you don't lose. The relationship loses. The intimacy, the connection, everything just starts to dissolve away and you lose ultimately. Another digression. When it comes to having that open space to be able to talk and communicate and have the ability to give and take. There's a bit of negotiating going on. And this negotiating allows higher standards for the relationship. When you negotiate and you have this space to be able to have clear, effective communication between one another, you can just show each other just how much you mean, because I want you to get your needs met, I want my needs met, and it's vice versa. You work together, you create a bit of compromise, but you don't go against anything that are your non-negotiables. And so around spending time together, intimacy, date night, all these things, you can have a deeper level of connection and intimacy if you communicate higher. Especially when it comes to, I feel like this when you do this. Or I don't feel seen, I don't feel heard, I feel upset. Talking about your emotions is one of the greatest ways that you can open up the floor for discussion. Because your feelings are real, you experience them. So you need to be able to communicate what your experience is. Because your partner, she might not even have an idea of what's going on. She might be so blindsided that you're feeling upset or, whatever you're experiencing, and she could come along and go, I'm really sorry, I had no idea. What can I do to fix it? What can we do to be able to work on this? And then if she's into the relationship and she can communicate herself, then you can create whatever solution to the problem, whatever compromise, whatever needs to work can flourish from that point, which is really beautiful. the more communication, the more you can understand each other's behaviors, the better your communication will be. Like I said, talking about non-verbal cues, you understand what that person looks like when they're upset, when they're sad, whenever they're disgruntled, angry, frustrated, whatever it is. You notice what their body's doing, and that's another layer to your communication. That's another layer to your intimacy that you can build in your relationship. So be deliberate with your behavior. Be deliberate with your communication. Another way that I used to manipulate people, bit of a weird segue into it. Anyway, that was full stop, chapter done. Another way that I used to manipulate people I'd pit people against each other. I'd pit girls against each other because I used to think they were playthings. That was literally the child mind in my head, the naive mind. I would play people off against one another. You remember you used to have those childish crushes back in school, and one person would like you, but another person would like you as well, and you used to play these, you can almost play games with it. I carried that shit on until I was in my 20s. That was the level of like pettiness that I used to do. I remember with my ex, she had a friend that I knew when I was like a teenager. She lived around the corner from one of my mates. And so those two were friends. I hadn't seen this friend in 10 years or so. And then we got together and all the rest of it. And this friend was in the picture. What happened to me, I wanted to reconnect with her friend. So I'm not going to say names, but I wanted to connect with old friend. And my partner didn't really like that. So then, because she didn't like that, I used to say things like, oh yeah, like back in the day, Jade and I, we used to do this and we used to do that. And then I met this person, the friend, and we used to hook up. And so I'd say things, like, oh yeah, we used to drunkenly hook up and all these sorts of things. And then she would get paranoid. And then she's like, I don't want to see you ever again. I don't want you to see her ever again. And then I'd be like, no, it's not like that. These were 10 years ago. And I would continue going down there, just turning the screws of fuckery because I was a little cunt. That level of just pitting people against each other, like old friend over here from 10 years ago, she had no idea what was going on. My ex, she got gaslit to the shithouse as well. And it just leaves people just in this drama triangle. If you haven't learned about the drama triangle, it's the victim, perpetrator, and the hero. And essentially, I'm the one being the perpetrator. I'm victimizing both of them. And then they're going against one another because this one doesn't understand why my partner doesn't want me to see her, and like it just turns into an absolute mess. That's the level of shit that I used to do. So if you manipulate people, if you gaslight people, just fucking stop it. Go seek some therapy, go do some counseling, and work through the unconscious reasons for why you used to do things. Another red flag to look out for is when it comes to negotiations in a relationship and that compromise and give and take, if they then go against what the compromise was. Because then clearly the negotiation has failed, the compromise hasn't settled, and it's not agreed upon. All a relationship is, through communication, is a constant negotiation. Think about it when it comes to doing dishes, housework, finances, holidays. It all comes down to negotiation. You have some kids and holy shit, do you negotiate? So when it comes to negotiation, make sure it's actually agreed upon. And if you go against, like, date night, for example, if you organize a date night and then you're working late or whatever the scenario is, and then you go have beers with the boys instead of going to date night, and then you say, oh, sorry, I was really busy at work. That's you reneging the negotiation. That's you ignoring what your standards are for the communication, for the trust that you've built, and you're shitting on it. You're destroying that. You're deliberately just sabotaging it, throwing it out the window. When it comes to having an agreement and having negotiations, it's all about what is the highest abstraction that we can get to, and then can we work down. So if the highest abstraction talking about negotiating in a relationship is happy, trust, love, whatever paradigm you want to put on it, then you can start working down. And you can say things like, so if this is what we need to focus on, if the biggest thing that we need to focus on is love, do you still feel loved if this? And then get more and more detailed. Talking and compromising on and negotiating on communication on whatever you're talking about in the relationship, having a high abstraction point where you both agree, that's the center point of agreement, where you can then bring it down and make it more detailed on the way down, and cross-referencing. So if you say, if this is the thing that you need and you feel love when we do this, could this also happen? Because this is what I need. And then it's a back and forth and an up and down. You're navigating in higher abstractions. The way to do this in communication, when like practical physical communication with your partner, is to say, what do we value in the relationship? What do we believe? What are our preconceived notions that we're bringing to the relationship that aren't discussed, that aren't being spoken about in a way that is commonplace for us both to understand? We don't want to have presuppositions. We don't want to bring in a bunch of baggage that is presupposed into the relationship that then colors all the interactions and leaves this it's almost an ambiguity between us, because you're bringing everything from your past relationship into this one. It's another thing that I used to do, because I used to think relationships are kind of like, think of it like a lint ball. And you go through multiple relationships, the lint ball gets bigger, it compounds, you carry more baggage. And then you just carry this thing along relationship to relationship. Or at least that's what most people do. That's what I did, at least. And then all of a sudden you get into this relationship and your insecurities come out. Your irrationality comes out because whatever happened in a past relationship that changed you and altered your behavior and altered your mind, that happens in this relationship. And you go, whoa. And then you just start like trauma dumping on your partner. When you do that, you're breaking down intimacy, you're breaking down communication and connection. Everything that happened in a prior relationship does not come into the future relationship unless it's not agreed upon. Unless it is agreed upon, sorry. What happened in a past relationship does not come into your new relationship unless you've spoken about it. In my instance with meeting Rachel, going on our dates and everything that we did, I said to her from day dot, I have a child. I've been through a domestic violence situation with my ex. I now have this, and I aired everything out. Obviously, I set the stage. I said, hey, I don't want to dump on your shoulders first, but this is what I'm bringing with me. This is my baggage. I aired it all out for the open. And I said to her, look, the reason why I'm saying this is because I think there's a future with you. I would really like to start dating you and getting to know you and, see where this can go. However, I'm not going to dump all this on your shoulders. This is my stuff. This is my baggage. It's not yours. Don't worry about it. However, few leaky things came in, insecurities, trauma bonds and stuff like that came into the relationship that I wasn't aware of that, ended up getting addressed. So don't bring your baggage. Work through your baggage. Your new relationship, especially when it's exciting, when it's hot and heavy and intimate and you can't get enough of each other, that is the time where you would work with a therapist. Go leave your baggage with someone else and don't bring it into the relationship. That can be left out into the ether. When it comes to your relationship, this is a sanctuary. This is new. This is exciting. This is beautiful. And if you can keep nourishing and nurturing and developing and enhancing the intimacy, connection, everything inside of us, the tension between one another where it's almost palpable. Everyone knows that sensation where you're meeting this new person and, things are getting hot and heavy and you're like, oh my God, I can't get enough of this person. There's no reason why your relationship can't be sustained the entire time if you were to develop it at the start. However, most people don't have this conversation. They don't talk about negotiating. They think that negotiating only happens in business or getting a car or a house or something like that. You negotiate in everyday life. You negotiate the terms of the relationship, how you parent, the styles of parenting, when you raise your voice, all these sorts of things. So talk openly and set the framework for how you want this thing to look. Who knows what it's going to look like in the future? But if you create the foundation again and you raise high standards of communication, intimacy, connection, so on and so forth, that can be nurtured and developed and carried with you. 8 years into our relationship, that woman is still, oh my God. I love her so fucking much, it's not even funny. I remember thinking before she got pregnant, I could not love this woman anymore. I could not. And that Well, that was a fucking lie. When I saw her develop into a mother, I lost it. I'm dumbfounded. Like I'm absolutely speechless remembering what it felt like to see her become a mother and see her nurturing and, looking after this baby. I fell in love with her all over again. I remember after we got together and I told her I loved her and she said, yeah, sure you do. Then we took, my daughter full time, my oldest daughter full time. And then I saw her become stepmom when she chose to stand up, like I spoke about in the previous episode. That was the limit. I was like, oh my God, she's 100 out of 100. I love her so damn much. She's amazing. She's amazing. She's just such a good woman. And then I saw her become a mother herself, an actual mother to this beautiful baby that she birthed and, breastfed and raised and bathed and, head over heels. Head over heels. That 100 out of 100 that I felt before, 10 times it, easy. And thankfully, because of me getting out of my way, counseling, therapy, coaching, programs, all the personal development that I've done, all the friggin' books that I've read and all the rest of it, and the embodiment and integration of all the lessons that I've learnt, allowed me to help develop and nurture and raise and continue our love. The experience of love, like I said, 8 years has flown by. I love that woman every single day. I choose her every single day. And those types of relationships are absolutely still out there. You might have to work a little bit harder in this day and age, especially with the ease of technology and, grass is always greener on the other side, so to speak. And, dealing with the current social climate and the current ideologies that are possessing people. Like, it's work out there. It's rough. Don't get me wrong. It's friggin' rough. However, if you want that relationship, all you need to do is communicate. Communicate, negotiate, understand each other's needs, just be open, transparent, and vulnerable. With all of those things, open, transparent, and vulnerable, it's courageous. It takes courage to do that. Opening up your heart and expressing all of your wounds and your soft points that could be damn well turned into a weapon if she really wanted to turn into a vindictive bitch. That vulnerability, that ability to be seen with another person, especially your intimate partner, is so valuable. It takes a lot of courage to take off that armor and to stand there bare-chested and say, hey, this is all I am. This is me. This is me as a human. This is me as a man, bare-chested, without any bravado, without any ego or anything like that. Like, I want you to see me. I want you to see the worst of me. And is this acceptable for you? Is this a red flag for you? Is this a deal breaker? And if it is, I'm okay inside of myself and I know that I can move forward. I know that I can heal. I know that I can find another woman if I have to, because the whole myth around the one is absolute nonsense. I know I'm going to be okay. Is this a deal breaker for you? And if it is, thank you for the experience that we had. Thank you. And, see you later. If you want to remain friends, no worries. But you have to be able to bare your chest, bare your soul. It takes a lot of work. It takes a lot of work to be able to get comfortable with even expressing emotions, even crying, especially crying in public. It takes a lot of work to get to that point. All emotions, tears, it's completely normal. It's completely valid. Your experiences are to be experienced. Your emotions are to be experienced. They're to be felt to completion, not held on, not bottled up, not suppressed, not shoved away, not hidden from, not scared of. It's okay to have emotions. It's okay to share vulnerability. It's okay to tell a mate that you love them, that, you miss them, or to be able to have these conversations even with yourself, to be able to look at yourself in the mirror and say, hey, Dave, you're doing a good job, mate. I'm really proud of you. I'd like it if you looked after yourself a little bit better because you're worth it. It's okay. Having conversations with yourself and with others like that, that's true courage. That's strength. That's vulnerability. It's authenticity. It shows you're a real human being. You're not just a mask. You're not just a persona. You have depth. You have soul. You've got essence. You've got gravity to you. That's a human being. That experience is open and there for you if you want it. That is the fullest human experience you can have. Being authentic, open, transparent, vulnerable, courageous. That is the truest human expression. And it's there for all of us. And in this world of of ideologies, of division, of technology, easy swipe rights and so on and so forth. These relationships that we can build, the connections, the human experience that we can all have, they're few and far between. But if you want it, it's all there for you. That world that you've always dreamed of, that life that you've always dreamed of, it's there. It's available. It's 100% available. I know because I have it. I know because one of my favorite relationships in and around my life is my best friend and his wife, who's also another really close friend. The level of love, vulnerability, and connection and intimacy that I see inside of them, it was inspiring to me years and years ago when they first got together. That love, that's what I wanted. And that love is what I have now. It's out there for you guys. The life, the love, the relationship, the kids, the fatherhood, everything is available to you if you take responsibility, if you start creating your life by design, if you start looking at your traumas and abuse and everything that you don't want to look at, you can start getting somewhere absolutely great. You need to heal that shit inside of you though. You need to get out of your way, stop being so brave and macho and all these things, and just deal with the stuff that's inside of you. Heal. That's one of the best things that you can do. Heal. So that you can be an integrated human, meeting another integrated human, creating a beautiful life. That ending took a little bit of a turn that I didn't think it was going to. It's amazing where these things go. But anyway, next time we're going to be talking about some cool things. We're going to be talking about values, beliefs, and children. It's going to be an interesting one. It's one of my... I love being a dad. It's one of my favorite things about my life. Being a dad, raising girls, teaching values and beliefs. It's going to be a good one, guys. So thank you much for being here. Until I see you in the next one, take care. See you guys. Thank you for being with me today. Thank you for subscribing and leaving a review. It really helps us out. Until next time, take care and much love.